Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sam Woodcock from Ireland. Thank you for joining us for the second of Ireland's Tech Talk series. We're running a number of Tech Talks across the months, both previous and current, and ongoing into 2019. And thank you for joining this Tech Talk series. Today, we're going to be talking about how to size virtual machines and workloads for disaster recovery, but also workloads in the cloud in general as well. So thank you for joining me. Just a little bit around the agenda. I'm going to do a little introduction to myself and Ireland as a company. Next of all, I'm going to do a demonstration of the Ireland Catalyst product. And next of all, at the final stage, we're going to be doing a Q&A as well. So as we're running through the tech talk, if you have any questions, just pop those in the GoToWebinar box. I'd be happy to answer those throughout the webinar and actually at the end as well, that Q&A. Really think of any questions that you have and post those. Also, if you don't get an opportunity throughout the webinar or you don't think of a question, you can always email myself or the Ireland team afterwards to get an answer on that question. So please think of anything and let us know as we run through. So first of all, the introductions. Let me go into those. On screen, you can see there, that's myself, Sam Woodcock. I'm currently the director of the solution architecture team within Ireland in Europe and in Asia. I've been with Ireland 6 years. I really kind of responsible for designing solutions for customers, whether they're looking at disaster recovery, they're looking at cloud backup, they're looking at our production hosting facilities. I want to make sure that the solution that we provide to a customer is going to work, and it's going to provide what you're looking for as a business as well. We don't want to provide a solution that doesn't meet your objectives. And so my main responsibility is the technical side of the shop, making sure, again, things are validated, they're sized appropriately, and you have the right solution that meets your needs. You can see there my Twitter handle. Please feel free to follow me. I've got the Ireland Cloud Twitter as well there. We post regular updates. You can always see the latest seminars we're doing, both physically in the London office that we have here today, but also the Tech Talk series that we both publish on YouTube and actually live stream as you are doing today. You can also see my email address there, so please feel free to reach out with any questions. For the folks on the call that haven't heard of Ireland before or just need a refresher, here's our blue slide. This talks to Ireland's history and our current procedures and our current solutions that we have as well. So we've been in business for 22 years delivering IT services. We have 8 global locations that deliver those services, and they're all meeting the general global compliance requirements that most organizations are looking for. And for the last 12 years, we've been focused on cloud and disaster recovery specifically. So we have a lot of experience in this space. We're going to be talking about the Catalyst tool today and how that helps design those cloud and disaster recovery solutions. In the middle, you can see from Gartner that we're a leader in the Magic Quadrant for disaster recovery as a service, not only in the current year, but also the previous 2 years as well. Actually, if you look at the nice Magic Quadrant there, you'll see us right in the top right-hand corner. That's the main thing that people know us for initially, for providing great disaster recovery solutions for their on-premises VMware infrastructure. But then people then see that we also do things like cloud backup, and also production hosting. In fact, our DR platform is the same as our production platform. So we often see people start off with Ireland for disaster recovery and then transition into full production hosting with us. A lot of pedigree in the industry, a lot of partners that we work for or work with. So you can see in the middle, we work heavily with VMware. Actually, in fact, on the 2018 VMware or VMware World in the US, we actually won the Gold Award for Best Cloud Platform. We work with Veeam on the backup and replication side of things, and we're actually their Partner of the Year. We also work with Zerto on the disaster recovery side for the last number of years. And again, we have the Partner of the Year award with that provider. And we also work heavily in the channel, as well as working with our partners at Cisco, who provide our back-end infrastructure. So a lot of partners there. We work with all of these technologies. We sit on the technical advisory councils. So not only do we utilize the products, but we also control the future direction of those solutions. And a lot of these vendors also are customers of Ireland. So we work hand in hand in a partnership to deliver our solutions. And again, those solutions based on production hosting, cloud backup, disaster recovery, as well as labs as a service. We offer all of those things today. So today I'm going to be talking about why you should use Catalyst. Why does Catalyst exist? What does it do? How does it help you with your cloud solutions or shaping what those cloud solutions are going to be looking like in the future? So obviously the main focus of today was why Catalyst in terms of disaster recovery, but I'm also going to be giving some guidance on how Catalyst is used throughout the cloud assessment process to understand how to design cloud backup and disaster recovery as well as infrastructure service solutions as well. So what Catalyst is in fact, it's a piece of software. It's free of charge. You can download it throughout the Ireland website at any time. And what Catalyst aims to do is provide software-defined design. As I informed you guys at the start, I work in our pre-sales team, my main responsibility being design of an overall solution. And in the past, over those 12 years, that's ranged from a lot of different processes, a lot of different pieces of software, and a lot of knowledge that we built up over time that our team worked through a customer to understand how their environment looks. So what we did last year, and we're ongoing and actually have ongoing development of this product, was actually we wanted to take our pre-sale design process, our end-to-end technology design process, and build it into software, because we know that if we define it in software, it's going to actually make for a repeatable design, a repeatable process. We can actually inform that design and update it with the latest understanding that we have to make sure that we have project success. So we think it's a very big deal that this is software defined, and this is going to provide a very validated experience for our customer base. And when customers are looking towards disaster recovery, I've listed some of the common questions that we actually get as part of that process along the side on the right-hand side. And this is really related to disaster recovery, but is mainly also applicable to a lot of other solutions that we offer. First of all, people ask us, well, how do we right-size my cloud-based resources? I'm looking at a backup project, I'm looking at a DR project. How do you know exactly what capacity I need to ensure that I can get that data across to you at Island, and also provide a platform that's going to provide me with the capacity I need in something like a disaster recovery failover event? How do we make sure that that's sized appropriately? Also, people are actually wanting to make sure, and Island specifically wanting to make sure that the workloads are compatible with our cloud-based services. We don't want to take workloads and promise the world and say, hey, look, we're going to protect these systems with this solution and it's all going to work fine. What we want to do instead is actually at the start of the process, hook up into your virtual environment and actually understand what you're running, and then run pre-checks against that environment to actually understand exactly what it looks like and make sure that the solution that we're proposing is the right one for those workloads. We know that sometimes specific workloads in your environment will need a different solution, or maybe we can't provide a solution at all for that. And so what we want to do is pre-check that in advance, let you know, and shape the solution accordingly. With disaster recovery, recovery points and recovery times are extremely important. We know from a business perspective, recovery points help businesses achieve their disaster recovery solution and make sure that they don't lose data as part of that process. And obviously, recovering as quickly as possible is extremely important for a business to keep up and running, transacting from a business perspective and not losing the reputation that they've built up over time. So these things are extremely important, but how can I achieve that? How can I validate that I can actually meet those objectives? And then also, obviously, cost is a huge element of any solution, whether that's in the cloud or on premises. And often we want to understand, and the customer wants to understand, how will that cost per month? And also for things like DR testing and DR failovers, which are rare incidents or ad hoc incidents, how much will that cost me during those incidents and those times as well? So these are some of the common questions we get, and this is where Catalyst comes in and provides that software to actually help us answer those questions. So that's it from the slides perspective initially. What I'm going to do here is actually go into a demonstration of Catalyst and show you how it answers some of those questions I just ran through. And you can see on screen just a screenshot of the Catalyst tool. This is, again, something that you can download through the Island website. An Island engineer can help you through the process. It's very simple to use and install, but we want to be here to guide you through how to make best use of this product. Again, really easy to utilize and download. So let me scroll across to my demo lab, and this is a live instance of my Catalyst solution. What Catalyst needs is a virtual machine that sits on your network. That virtual machine needs network access to your virtual center, and it needs the ability to be installed on a Windows-based machine. We have a guide of what prerequisites are needed, but typically any operating system from Windows, whether that's server or client, can be utilized, and you install the Catalyst software within it. That can be downloaded through Island's website, simply an executable that you run. That executable brings up a web server, and you're accessing the Catalyst tool through either Chrome or Firefox would be the recommended route to utilize the service. As you can see here, I'm actually connected to the Catalyst calculator. Once you're in Catalyst, it's very simple to get connected to the virtual center. So this is how we understand what your virtual machines are and start to understand and answer some of the questions that we just ran through as part of the slides. So first of all, what we would do is we would add a virtual center to the Catalyst tool. And you can either add a single virtual center or multiple virtual centers. You might have just one location in the UK or in Europe, and you're happy with that location, or you might have multiple virtual centers globally that you want to understand the costs and the implications and the solutions available to you from an Island perspective. So here is where we can add a single or multiple virtual centers, and we would simply provide the host name the username and the password of those virtual centers within the Catalyst interface. The nice thing here is it would only require read-only permissions, so you don't need to provide any extensive root or administration-based permissions. We understand security is top of mind to organizations. So here you simply need to provide a read-only account into your virtual center to get all of the information that Island would need to right-size and validate your environment. So this has been done previously to the demo, but I just wanted to show you how easy it would be to connect to the virtual center. Once I'm connected to the virtual center, we get a nice view of all the resource pools and the virtual machines that are connected through. And this helps us build a picture of your virtual machines and your infrastructure in your local environment. Along the top, you'll see we're in the calculator view, and I'll show you extensively how to utilize that. But if you want to see what information Catalyst is actually gathering on the back end to do what it does, you can click over to the infrastructure view and actually click into the virtual center itself and see exactly what we're gathering from the Island perspective. That's details around your host infrastructure, versioning, core speed, memory, and virtual machine sizing. It's also telling us information about your resource pools, your networking, and your virtual machines. So here you'll see all of the virtual machines that make up my virtual center, the operating system, the power status, the tool statuses, and hardware versions. And some of this information goes a long way to validate how successful these virtual machines are and how valid they are for our solutions. So you'll see this being utilized throughout the solution. We also, again, see networking information, so we can shape, if we're looking at a disaster recovery solution or an infrastructure as a service solution, shape exactly how the network topology should sit when we actually go to deploy that environment. So this is utilized not only by the pre-sales team at Island, but once we pass across this information to our deployment team, they exactly have that same information when they go to deploy your environment. So we ensure accuracy, compatibility throughout the whole process when you engage with the Island engineering team. If I quickly go back to virtual machines, I did want to talk a little bit about how we validate machines. That was the second point in my list. How do we make sure that they're compatible and valid for the cloud environment? So what we do here is we look for things like vCPU quantities, memory quantities, storage quantities, for example. With the Island Cloud, we support all the theoretical maximums that VMware offer. So if you've got some large machines with vCPUs, memory, and storage that may not be compatible with other clouds or in your local environment, what we do here is we compare the sizes of those virtual machines to Island's cluster sizes, and we can ensure that we provide the relevant cluster to actually enable that service to run successfully to Island's cloud. So we're doing that validation up front in terms of sizing, but being a VMware-based platform and having a very large-scale environment, Island can support very large configurations. For example, machines maybe with 10 terabyte volumes, for example. Those types of things are completely valid in the Island Cloud, but we want to make sure that as things change both in our environment and yours, we understand exactly how we should shape that solution. Another big one, when you look at a cloud provider, is typically the VMX version. So you can see in my environment, I've got VMX versions from 9 to 11. As VMware bring out latest versions of vSphere, it may be the case that you're running slightly larger or higher versions of VMware tools or VMware hardware versions to Island. So what we actually do here is validate what you're running to what we're running and highlight any areas that we need to address potentially as part of the solution and make sure that our platform is going to be able to successfully run your virtual machines within a DR event. And so that's something we also validate alongside things like RDMs, raw device mappings, clustering, for example. Those things may need different solutions for DR, and we want to validate those things up front so we understand where we should take the design as we work through from a solution design perspective. So some of those things, again, we've built those into software. We've built that into a software designed or defined design process, because when we define those things in software, we don't need to make sure that everyone is on the same page from a training perspective, although we do that from our side. We build that in so that it's repeatable, accurate, and it's always done by the system. And that's a really big benefit as a result of defining that in software. So now we're connected to the vCenter. You can see all of my virtual machines on the left-hand panel. What you see on the right-hand panel down at the bottom is virtual machine groups. So this is where I can start to build an assessment on different virtual machines in my environment. And again, Island offers a range of services, and you can get assessment on all of those things here within the Catalyst tool. So here, what we'll do is it's created a default group here. What I'm going to do is going to create a list of all my virtual machines. And this is going to be all my virtual machines in Europe, for example. So I'm going to put the EU. So for imagine you have multiple vCenters connected to Catalyst, you might just want an assessment on what DR as a service looks like for your European division. And that's where we can create a group there. But you might also want to get an assessment on maybe just your tier 1 applications in the EU. So we can define another group for those systems. So once we've defined the types of grouping structures that we have, we can then select and deselect virtual machines in my environment. So first of all, we're going to do an assessment on all the virtual machines in my environment. So simply I can select the resource pools I'm interested in. What's happened there is we then have a list of the 33 machines and the exact CPU, memory, and storage capacity we need for either an infrastructure solution or a disaster recovery solution. We know that up front. We know that this is 100% valid, and we know that we're going to do those pre-checks against it so we can understand exactly what those look like. But alongside maybe getting that assessment for disaster recovery as a service, your management team has asked you to keep an eye on what it would cost to do infrastructure as a service in the cloud. What would it look like from a technical perspective? What would it look like from a commercial perspective? Well, we have the information to give you that assessment alongside that DR assessment as well. But also to add to that, if you're looking for things like cloud backup, you can also get an assessment on what type of storage you would need in the cloud to facilitate a cloud backup solution. And so we built into the Catalyst tool a calculator that will understand exactly what capacity would be needed for different types of retention policies that you might want to meet for different types of systems. So in my case, if I do 7 dailies, 4 weeklies, and 12 monthlies on those 33 servers, it's letting me know that I would need about 6.5 terabytes of storage within the cloud to run that type of retention policy. And it helps me model those different scenarios and get commercial pricing on that from Iland to see what's achievable both from a technical and a business perspective. What we also do is we gather, and in my environment, my machines aren't doing a whole lot here today, but in my environment, I also see CPU usage both at a peak and average perspective, as well as memory consumption from a peak and average perspective. So in that case, what this helps us achieve as well is we understand exactly how much capacity you need in a DR event or a production event. But we also understand that if you're doing a disaster recovery failover, we're able to give you predictive analysis on the costs of that in that event as well. So, for example, you're consuming on average 13 gigahertz, about 63 gigs of RAM, and Catalyst has told us that information. Iland can very quickly tell you how much that's going to cost you if you ever fail over, not only for an hour, but also maybe for a month or two in the Iland cloud. Iland's disaster recovery model is purely based on a consumption-based model for CPU and memory. And that means that you have the capacity you need if you ever have to fail over, but you only pay for the usage of resources, and we really right-size that accordingly to what you need and charge you for those resources just for what you consume. So this helps us really understand how much we should budget for DR. Alongside the CPU, memory, and storage, again, we understand the networking layout and networking topology, so we can actually make sure that that's right-sized for your relevant solution. But one of the critical elements of disaster recovery infrastructure as a service and backup is, can I achieve my recovery points, recovery times, and can I connect to the cloud in a manner that's going to give me the performance I need and the data connectivity I need to achieve the solution? So what we did is we built the ability to, when you launch the tool, run an automatic latency assessment against any of Iland's 8 global data centers, so we can understand which data center is closest to me and which gives me the best possible performance from a networking perspective. And we can then validate which one works from a geography and a networking connectivity perspective. Helps you make sure you pick the right location for your cloud environment, whatever the use case. But what we also built is a speed test that takes that information and actually gives you exact throughput information, both from an upload and download perspective. So, for example, if I have done my latency assessment and I see that maybe in this case I'm running in a US-based environment, and I want to run a speed test assessment against Dallas, I can actually run a speed test natively in the tool. And this will actually utilize my own production bandwidth where I'm running the tool and help me understand what I would achieve from an upload and download perspective. And using that information, we can then validate that bandwidth is going to meet my needs to successfully replicate data in a DR solution, or whether I might need to increase my bandwidth because maybe it's not enough to achieve the replication initially and on an ongoing basis from a disaster recovery perspective as well. And then from a production side, again, this helps validate those types of use cases. Is the latency accessible for production workloads? Will I be able to transit the data to and fro the cloud with my connection, or do I need to update that? This is just giving you some real-world information that's typically hard to achieve and understand, and helping us plug that in and validate that everything looks good, or whether we need to make any changes to both the production bandwidth that you have or the disaster recovery bandwidth that you have as well. So really helps answer that question. Now, what we also have is once we have run the speed test, for example, we plug those values in, and based on what you've chosen to protect or back up or run, it will actually tell us estimated seed times how long is it going to take to initially get that data across the island? And then when I do differentials, maybe per day or per week, what does it take, or how long is it going to take to send that data to the cloud as well? And this is where we highlight whether maybe there's the case where you do need to increase your bandwidth to achieve what you're looking for from a recovery perspective or a data replication side of things. So really giving some real world figures and applying them to your exact environment here. The other piece that I think really helps is the ability to then define those groups as we first saw. So we're maybe just interested in everything, but maybe we can't get the budget for everything right now. And so we want to get commercial pricing and a technical solution around just my tier one applications. So using that same interface, it's very easy to select specific machines which are seen as business critical in the organization. You can see I'm selecting those on the left-hand panel. And actually, as we look through the interface down to the tier one grouping, you can see I've selected 11 virtual machines. And now I have specific information directly towards just those specific machines. So not only can I get quick commercial pricing from Island for that solution for tier one applications, I have further information that I can go to my board of directors with to let them know in the future, if we get the budget, how much it's going to cost for the entire environment. But I can also get specific use cases covered around those machines. How much would it cost to just protect those 11 virtual machines with cloud backup? So we think this is a really nice tool to validate a lot of the concerns, a lot of challenges people are looking to look through as they evaluate the cloud, and also helps us build a peace of mind that we want to make sure that when we sell a solution to a customer and actually onboard a customer, that they're going to have the right experience that we want to achieve as well. Simply, once you've got the information to how you like it, simply you can then email that across to Island. You can include your first and last name, your email address, and your company name. Island then receives that information and works with you together to show you what the solution would look like. What technologies do we need to employ? What is the shape and size of those? And what extra steps or next steps do we need to achieve to then get to the next step, which is your deployment of the solution or testing of the solution. So this is where we submit that report to Island. That's done encrypted and also held in an encrypted REST state. And we only ensure that specific engineers have access to this information. And we show you exactly what that is. We'll share that with you as well. So that was a little whistle-top tour of Catalyst. We would be more than happy to give you a one-on-one demonstration specific to your environment. We'd also like to get one of my team on the phone with you as well and help you work through an assessment of your environment. It's very simple to do in a number of minutes, but if you wanted a little bit more in-depth advice on how we would kind of categorize machine workloads and systems, we'd be happy to get on the phone and actually help you throughout the process as well. But going back to the slides, that was a demonstration of Catalyst. But as we've been working through, I know there's been a number of questions as I've been running through the demonstration, so I did want to give a chance to answer those as we've been running through. One of the questions that we had was, well, how long is this going to take me to run? I'm a busy kind of administrator within my organization, and I don't really have a lot of time to do this type of assessment. How long is it going to take? Well, it can be as complicated or it can be as simple as you'd like. We can really install this tool within around a minute from our side and your side. And actually, to take the assessment, if all you're doing is picking a selection group of VMs and saying you want to do disaster recovery with it, you can do that in another couple of minutes and send that information to Island. So it really only needs 5 to 10 minutes max from a time investment perspective. So I think that's really going to be a really beneficial tool, and you'll get the data back, and it will help you evaluate not only Island's solution, but your other objectives in the market as well with on-premise environments, for example, as well. One of the questions I think I just answered, but I'm just going to reiterate as well, is how does Island protect my data? Your data is extremely important. So what we do is we encrypt the data in transit, and we also encrypt that data at rest. We also have role-based access, so only specific Island solution architects have access to that information. If you want that purged later on, we do that, and we have defined guidance on how we do that. And we always share that information back to you as well. So we want to make sure you're comfortable with this, and we can provide as much documentation around that as well from our side. We also align to things like GDPR from our side. We have the BSI 20012 certification, not only on our cloud platform, but throughout our organization. And that's something we utilize when we're utilizing this tool as well. Someone says they've used RV Tools before, and is this just the same as an RV Tools, for example? Well, we think that this goes beyond RV Tools from our side. We think it takes the information that RV Tools gathers, but what we're doing is we're applying logic specific to Island services and specific to the cloud-based solutions that are in the market today. and validating the data against that. So RV Tools goes one step, which is to let you know what you're running and give you all of the information behind the scenes. But then it's up to a person or a human being, an organization, to interpret that and validate that against the solution. What Catalyst does is it's defining that in software and procedurally and automatically doing that against that data set. So we think it's an intelligent version of RV Tools, and it goes way beyond that. And we have some very exciting updates coming in the future around this tool, which we think will benefit the industry as well. Another question, can I run this more than once? Yep, you can run this as many times as you like. You can run an assessment initially with Island, but maybe a bit of time passes. We would always encourage to run this again if a lot of time's passed, because obviously with a lot of organizations, IT changes day to day. We want to make sure that when we're reaching the final stages of a solution design, that we revalidate the information, make sure that nothing's changed. We make sure we have the capacity and the environment sized accordingly. So yep, you can run this as many times as you like. Actually, this is part of our account management review process as well, that we actually engage with you and see what's changed maybe 6 months later or 12 months later, run a health check, see what we can protect that isn't being protected today in your environment. So we would always engage with you as a part of our account management team and run this again later on with you. We have a lot of partners, Island, managed service providers, resellers, for example, of our services. Some partners here have asked the question, can we use this with our customers? Certainly we see this being used by our partner base, and actually that's one of the reasons we developed the tool. We wanted to make sure that our partners had tools available that would enable them to make sure that the solutions that they sell and provide are as accurate as possible as well. So definitely partners can run this tool, and if you've got a partner that you work with, please put them in touch with Island, and we'd be happy to run through how this would help them with your solution that you're looking for. The other last question that I have is, how do I run this tool? Can it be done unassisted? Certainly, we'll provide all of the guidance. We provide video content. We provide documentation. But you can run this tool yourself. It's simple to run. But if you do need assistance, we're always here. So definitely you can run unassisted. But let us know if you have any help that you need as well. So I think that's all the questions I had. The last thing that I have here to tell you is really that we're running a range of Tech Talks at Island. The upcoming Tech Talks that we have are always available to see at island.com/techtalks webinar with hyphens between there, as you can see on screen. In October, we're running a disaster recovery considerations webinar, showing the considerations when you're considering native VMware-based clouds versus the hyperscale clouds in the market. We think that's going to be very interesting. In November, we're going to be talking about Island Secure Disaster Recovery as a Service, powered by our Veeam partner. So how Veeam technology and Island is going to market together to deliver disaster recovery solutions. We've got some very exciting things to see in November. And then in December, we're going to be talking about Island's secure cloud backup solution with Office 365. So Island today offers Office 365 backup, backing up not only mailboxes and calendars, but OneDrive and SharePoint on an indefinite retention policy. So if you've got Office 365 today, please tune in to that webinar in the future, but please reach out today. We have some really good offers today on that solution, and our team would be happy to show you what's possible there from a backup perspective. The last thing to mention as well is that we have a seminar coming up next week, 27th of September. That's in the Shard in our central headquarters. You can see there a really nice picture. We're on the 24th floor of the Shard. And that's, again, going to be a specific seminar around hyperscale versus native VMware, finding the right cloud for your business for disaster recovery. So we've got some last-minute spots. It's a very busy seminar, but please go to that URL. We'd be happy to see you, welcome you to our HQ, and show you some demonstrations one-on-one. Please do so. But with that, all I've got to say is thank you for tuning in. This is going to be available on YouTube at a later date. Please feel free to join our YouTube at Island Cloud and see future Tech Talks and past Tech Talks. The last link here you'll see is the link to download Catalyst. Go to island.com/island-catalyst, and you can download the tool today and run assessment on your virtual infrastructure. So I do appreciate everyone's time. I know everyone's really busy cranking away at the projects. Obviously, there's never a shortage of IT projects, but please reach out. Please visit this link. Please run Catalyst, and we'd love to show you what solutions we have to meet your needs as a business. So thank you very much.